Good morning and welcome to my kitchen. Now, the Jubilee bank holiday weekend is upon us, so I thought this week we would look at a couple of recipes that are inspired by and would suit perfectly a garden party if you're having one. Now, we're going to start off with some beautiful scones that are, now I say scones, you're a scone, aren't you?
Scone.
Scone just sounds common.
Oh!
Scone. We're going to make scones. I feel like the Queen would say scones, not scones.
Can I have a scone, please?
I used to have this argument with Mitch Turner. Is it a scone or a scone? She was a scone.
Was she?
She was posh.
Really? That
Anyway,
surprised me.
I digress. So these scones are made a little bit different. Okay, we're going to flavour them with lemon zest and ginger beer. So they've got really nice flavour. Now to serve them, something to serve them with, we're going to make a blueberry and apple jam. Somewhere between a jam and a compote, okay? So we're going to start with that. And I'm going to peel these cooking apples, which are pretty ugly looking, gnarly things, aren't they? But they are the perfect apple for this job. And I'll tell you why. Because they break up in the cooking process. Whereas most eating apples don't necessarily break down. There will be some out there, but I generally find that they don't. So we've gone for a Bramley apple.
Do you know what? If I ever make a crumble with them, I can eat them apples raw.
Ooh, crikey.
The lips got really sharp.
They are sharp, and actually it means I use less sugar in it as well, because the sweetness balanced with the blueberries that we're going to work with, it works really well. Because I think it's nice. You don't want it too sweet. Because we're using ginger beer in the scones. Have you had a scone with ginger beer in before?
No, and I'm
No, a
intrigued.
bit new one?
I'm intrigued.
My theory is the bubbles in the ginger beer will help with the lift. Way more than milk would. So, let's take the core out of these. There's my oven ready. Give me a little beep. So, let's get rid of the core. And then we will just slice them one way and slice the other way, so we have just little pieces. So it's not a long cook this at all. Okay, it's a quick jam compote. Be perfect in a cake with pancakes. You could have it with ice cream. It's the kind of jam that you would keep in the fridge. We're not going the whole sterilised setting point on this. We just want to get a nice apple, sweet sort of appley blueberry flavour to go with our scones. It's going to be good.
The apples have a little bit of pectin in, don't they, to be able to
They do, yeah.
A bit.
Yeah, it'll give it a more sort of thicker texture rather than a setting point.
Yeah. Is there any other fruits you could do this with apple?
Peach works quite well.
Ooh.
So you do a nice peach Melba jam. So if you did tinned peaches, actually work really well.
Ooh.
Oil them down with some raspberries, fresh or frozen, it wouldn't matter, and you get that kind of peach Melba combo going on, which is quite cool.
Oh, I like some of that.
But the blueberry works really well with the ginger and the lemon on the scones. And when we tested this recipe, oh, they are light as feathers, these scones. So good. Really surprised, weren't we, how light they were? Emily's chuckling away. Why are you giggling at me?
I just wondered what you were going to say then.
What, light as a feather?
Yeah.
What did you think I was going to say?
Not repeating.
Can you not repeat? Oh. I don't know what to tell you. So if you fancy the recipe, make sure you scan the QR code along the bottom. That will take you to masterclass.co website. All our recipes are there. And you can go and check out all the recipes, and you can check out the equipment that we use, because everything we use here is Masterclass. My job is to test out all the kit and make some amazing recipes with their equipment. So there you go, check it out. So have you got a garden party going on, Emily?
Yes, we've got a street party.
You've got a street party, I thought you might. You love a royal, don't you?
Yeah.
You like the Queen, don't you?
Oh, I love her.
You love her, don't you? Yeah.
I think these are something I would make, because it's something different for people to try.
Yeah. It takes the best of, I think, scones are delicious, don't get me wrong. I think they're lovely, they're British, you know. Everyone knows us for scones, don't they?
Yeah.
Or scones,
scones.
if you're an Emily Street party. But this recipe kind of, it's almost a little, in Australia they do it quite a lot and they use ginger beer in their scones, and I sort of thought I'd pinch it, play around with it a little bit. So, we've got 150 grams of fresh blueberries. You could just as easily use frozen, not a problem at all. Whack those in. And then I've got some sugar, not too much. We don't need too much because blueberries are quite sweet. And then I've got half a lemon. I'm going to squeeze that in. That'll just give us a little bit of liquid, give us some acidity, get the balance of flavours working, which I think is really, really important. So let's get a spoon in there and just stir it. It wants to be on a medium heat. And you want the apples to break and soften down, and you want the blueberries to burst and give out all their juices. And then just reduce it down to a nice compote, almost like jam. Have a taste of it and make sure it's exactly how you want it. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this jam to one side on a medium heat while we make the scones. Okay, my blueberry jam is cooking down nicely, so we're going to make these lemon and ginger beer scones. So, I've got all my ingredients weighed out. So I've got 500 grams of self-raising flour. So, self-raising flour, if you're watching in America, you want all-purpose flour, and you want to go to Google and Google how to turn all-purpose flour into self-raising flour. It'll tell you how many teaspoons of baking powder to add, okay? Then I have got 125 grams of salted butter, okay? And then fingertips, and just break the butter up into little pieces. And then using your fingertips, just rub the two together. You could do this in a mixer if you wanted to. Which is fine. And to be honest, you can make the dry mix and keep it in the fridge if you want to. And whenever you want some fresh scones, you can just whip it out of the fridge and add the wet ingredients and off you go. So just using my fingers and you want like a crumble texture, okay? So, can you see that all right, Emily?
Yeah.
Yeah? And here is your opportunity as well to get lots of air into your scones as well. I actually, when I was at secondary school, this was the first thing I learnt to cook in home economics, which is what it was called. And cooking in my school was scones. So there you go. Cheese scones, I think it was.
Ooh.
Yeah. And scones is something like I learnt to make scones again professionally at a place in Pocklington where I grew up called the Fresh Food Company, and my recipe is still pretty loosely around that recipe there. It's not very different anymore. So it's always 500 grams of flour, self-raising flour, 125 grams of butter, a couple of handfuls of sugar if you're doing sweet ones, and then you just add enough milk to bring it together just. Okay, but can you see that now, Emily? It's like really fine crumble.
Yeah.
Yeah? Really important. You can get air into this now. So lift it, let it go run through your fingers, and this will help get a really nice lift. I'm going to show you a few tips today. Call it a scone masterclass, if you will. There's also another way of doing it. I do this. So you do interlock your fingers, you lift up your mixture, and you kind of run it through. And it just means you get lots of air in there, which is really nice. Then we are going to add some sugar, okay? I'm using white sugar because I want the scones to be quite light in colour, all right? So give that a little mix through so that we've got a nice even distribution. And then we're going to add some lemon zest, okay? So you don't want to add the juice to your bake because it'll stop it from rising. You want to add, if you don't have fresh lemon and you have lemon oil in the cupboard that you use for flavouring, use that. But zest is just great. Loads of flavour in there. Just going to check my jam. Yeah, looks good. Apples are just starting to give now, so it's starting to become more thicker. The blueberries are bleeding out. I'll show you it in a minute. Right, couple more ingredients. Yogurt. The acidity of your yogurt will react. Whoa, nearly. Safe hands, me. The acidity of your yogurt will react with the raising agents that are in your self-raising flour, okay? That's why we add it. So we're going to add a tablespoon in there. And then we're going to add our ginger beer. Right, I've got my scales here. So I am going to weigh my ginger beer, just to give me an idea. Now I'm going to change my scales to mils. There we go. I want 150 mils of ginger beer. Okay.
Is there anything else you could use instead of ginger beer that would react the same?
Anything with bubbles. You could use sparkling water if you want.
Yeah.
But there's no flavour in sparkling water.
Yeah.
So you kind of lose your flavour. But if you haven't got any, but you've got fizzy water, add a bit of ground ginger.
Oh, okay.
And add some fizzy water. And you will get a similar taste. But it's about having the fizz. You need those bubbles to react. So I'll just mix this together with a metal spoon. I don't want to over mix. And I might find I need a touch more ginger beer. And that's okay. But the 150 mils is very much a guide because flour behaves differently in warm temperature. It's quite warm in the studio kitchen today. If it's somewhere cold, it's tighter and it won't absorb as much. So I'm finding I'm going to have a little splash more in there. Okay. There we go. So it's always better to add it as you go because you can't take it out once it's in there. But what you're looking for is a texture like this. So it's not a dough yet. Okay. We've got to compress it. So you never use a rolling pin when you're making scones, all right? I certainly don't. All I'm going to do is compress the dough. I'll just grab a touch more flour. I find the rolling pin is too heavy and bulky and you just lose all the air that you've already put in there. So I'm going to shape the dough, press the dough and push it in like that. So you're pressing it down and in, and you're compacting the dough, all right? Like so. Okay, and I would say, what's that? About 3 centimeters deep, okay? And then with my scone cutters, so I've got a round fluted cutter. It's really important that you get the first cut, as many as possible, in the first roll because they are always the best. Because once you start rolling it up and folding it, that's when it doesn't rise as well. So take a little bit of flour on your cutter and then cut. I always go around the outside first and get some nice cuts, and they are super light already, okay? The bubbles from the ginger beer is already reacting. That's why we have to be really gentle when we cut them out, because we don't want to lose the air. Now you've got all these little bits, okay? This will never be as beautiful as those ones, but that's okay. So just squash it together, and I tend to fold it over and do the same. So nice and round, pat it down, and then we will cut, and then we will do the same again. These will be called the baker's bits because you eat these ones, you don't send the other ones out. This is the one that you'll test. Okay, so there we go. Now, if you want to egg wash them, you can. Just beaten egg yolk gives you a lovely golden colour. And then straight into the oven at 185 degrees Celsius. You want a nice hot oven to give you a lift, okay? They'll take between 15 and 20 minutes to bake, okay? Right, in they go. Right, I've got my scones. They are baking in the oven, but I have got some here I made earlier. So this was our second test bake. And you can see they've got a lovely golden glaze on the top. So I've just used egg yolk on those. All right, but you don't have to. If you haven't got any, don't worry about it. And then if I show you, Emily, can you see my jam? You see how it's sort of broken down now?
Yeah.
And we now got this lovely fruity compote. It's perfect for the fridge. Once you've got it, it will freeze as well. But because we've used Bramley apples, we've got this lovely sort of appley blueberry sauce almost, if you like. It's going to be good. The only dilemma we're going to have is it cream first, Emily, or is it jam first?
No, see, it's jam first and then it's cream.
Well, this is going to mess with your world today.
No.
So I've got some whipped double cream here. I'm going to add a touch of vanilla because that's just the way we roll. Lovely. If you want clotted cream, you go for clotted cream. That's all right by me. But I'm not. I'm just going a bit of double cream with some vanilla in, dry at the end. Okay, there we go. Now let's have a little look at these. Now you shouldn't really need to cut a scone. You should be able to, you see that line there? You should be able to break it open like so. All right, this is the true Englishman in me. Who knew? Right, Emily, you ready for this?
Oh.
It's going to be a good one. It's going to be, I'll go halvers with you. Do you want top or bottom? What are you into most? Top or bottom? Everyone has a preference.
Bottom, please.
Bottom it is. Right. I'll go easy on the butter for you because I know you're weird
jam
about
first,
that.
please.
I can't because it's warm. You're going to have to.
No, but then the cream's going to split if it hits something hot.
You'll be fine.
No,
What
that's
could
the wrong
possibly
way.
go wrong?
Way.
It's my recipe.
Wrong.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little well in the middle for you there. All right?
You've had
So we've got our vanilla cream.
30 years of chef experience.
Queen would love this. And then our beautiful blueberry and apple jam in the middle there. Can you see that?
I can.
Look at that.
Put it next to the ones on the...
You want it there?
Yeah.
Oh, way up. There we go. I'm going to butter mine properly.
The jam on first.
Absolutely not. Cream on first. It's not cream, it's vanilla cream, so it's like chantilly cream.
Nice.
There you go.
But
And then that, and taste. You need to make this recipe. If you are not having a Jubilee party weekend, just make the scones. We could make it National Peter Sidwell's ginger beer scone weekend, all right? They are good. They are really good.
silence is golden.
I'm busy. Look, if you want the recipe, scan the QR code along the bottom. They are the most delicious scones. They are light, flavoursome, buttery, absolutely delicious. Here you go, Emily. Try that.
Thanks.
So while Emily is eating away her scone over there, hopefully she won't choke, and struggling with cream over jam and which way around, I wanted to talk to you about a competition. Now, if you want to win a set of these Smart Space Masterclass mixing bowls, please like, share and comment on the video below. That will enter you into competition. We'll pick a random winner next week. I will message you to let you know you've won, and I'll put one of these into the post for you. They are brilliant. Get a decent sized mixing bowl with a handle. You get the colander, you get 2 little sized mixing bowls, and they all fit into one little space. So they fit inside each other. They're brilliant for all kinds of jobs in the kitchen. So remember, if you want to win these, comment, like, and share. Right. What did you think of my scones then, Emily?
Really good.
They are super delicious. Now, on to the next recipe. Right, it's time to bake now. I'd like to share with you how to make the most delicious rye bread. We're going to serve that with some kedgeree flavour inspired salmon, with some yogurt. It is the perfect picnic, garden party, open sandwich. So it's a little bit posh, like an open sandwich. It's a bit posh, isn't it, Emily?
Yeah.
So rye bread's really good for you as well. It's lower in gluten. It's more digestible as a flour, but as a consequence, because it's lower in gluten, it hasn't got that same characteristic, you know, like a big crusty sourdough or a baguette or anything like that, but it is delicious in the right point. So let's grab a mixing bowl. I'll go for one here. So we tend to, when we're making rye bread, I'm using Dove's Farm, which is a wholemeal rye, so it's quite a dark bread flour. I've got 200 grams of dark rye flour. I've also got a teaspoon of salt in there. I've also got 200 grams of white strong bread flour. So we're doing a blend, so we kind of get the best of both, all right? So you get the flavour and the high fibre from rye, and then you get a little bit of gluten from the bread flour. Okay, so that's blended in. I've got 7 grams of dried yeast. I'm going to put that to one side. And then I've got caraway seed. Now, caraway is actually a really important spice in Cumbria. One of the last remaining traditional breads in Cumbria is called the Whig bread. And it was brought over by the German miners in Hawkshead. And they made this lovely bread with their caraway seed. And oh, it's delicious. Do you like caraway?
Yeah, I didn't
realise
that was its background.
It's got a kind of aniseedy type flavour. You could add fennel seeds if you don't have that, but they're really easy to get hold of, and if I'm honest, most people have got a jar of caraway seeds tucked in the back of their spice cupboard somewhere. I know my mum has somewhere. So I'm going to add a little bit of maple syrup. Now you could add honey if you wanted to. Obviously, if you follow a plant-based diet, for this particular bread, use maple syrup. And then I have got 250 mils of water, okay? In it goes. Then you want your hand in kind of a claw motion like that, yeah? So just using your hand in a claw motion, roll your hand around the bowl and it will incorporate together. And you end up with quite a soft, well, it's a bit sort of grey if I'm honest. It's not the most appetising looking dough, is it, at the beginning?
Not really.
No, but
Cement.
it comes good. Right, I'm just going to add a little bit of flour to my hands and to the dough. It's quite a sort of dense, rich bread, this. It's not light and fluffy and aerated. And what you'll find is that it doesn't stretch like a traditional bread dough does. So it doesn't matter how much kneading and working you do, you're still not going to get that lovely stretchy dough like you would if you made a focaccia or a sourdough or something like that. So it's more about just bringing it together, okay? And once you've brought that together, we're then going to pop it into our mixing bowl and we're going to let it prove and double in size. Now I've got one that I made earlier, which I'm going to show you, so I'll just go and get that. Right, so here's one that I made earlier. So you can see, if I just scoop this dough out, there we go. You can kind of see all the air pockets, so where our yeast has done its work. I've actually left this dough for about 2 hours and it's doubled in size and it's like really spongy, okay? Looks like literally like a sponge that you would wash the car with. And that's the yeast developing all the air pockets, okay? So what we're going to do is we're just going to take a little bit of flour, we're going to knock it back, so we're going to knock the air out for the second prove. And the reason why we do that is it gives it an even starting point on its final prove before the oven. Okay, because we want a nice even rise on this bread. So knock all the air out and then take one end, fold it in, take the other end, fold it in, and then push and roll towards you. You see that all right?
Yeah.
Yeah? And that means that we get a nice strong crown to the bread. So when it bakes nice and evenly and all the strength is at the top. Okay, so I've got a little excess flour here. I'm going to drop this into my baking loaf tin, pop it in. We're going to leave this for at least an hour to prove and double in size. Then bake this 180 degrees for about 45 minutes until it's really golden. I've got one in the oven. I'm going to show you that now. Right, this rye bread is fully baked. So all we need to do is turn it out. There we go, and let it cool. Okay, so while that's happening, I want to serve with this rye bread a kind of kedgeree. Kedgeree was what sort of sat on my mind when I was talking to the guys at Masterclass, and they said, oh, it's Jubilee weekend, what could we do? And I thought, well, I quite like the idea of doing some rye bread, some open sandwiches. What can I do on a sandwich? It's pretty boring, isn't it? So I thought kedgeree was very sort of colonial, imperial, British, but also I can put my spin on it and make it really delicious. So I bought this salmon from the supermarket this morning. Let me find a knife. And I will find a little chopping board. Here we go. And I thought what would be really nice was to make it sort of spiced, but not like curry hot, just spiced, and serve it up with some really nice cool Greek yogurt, okay? So what I thought was we would make our trusty Indian spice mix. I've used it so many times before on this show, and here is how I make it. So that's how you make my spice mix. It's versatile, it's full of flavour, it's really easy to make. It sits in a jar, it's dry, you can add it to soups, meats, vegetables. You can stir it in with a bit of yogurt and you've got an epic dip. It's absolutely delicious. Also really good for the barbecue coming into the summer. You may well see this again. So let's take our salmon. So this is a very lightly smoked salmon actually. But I'm still going to cook it because I think it'll be absolutely delicious. A little bit of parchment paper. You could use normal salmon, you know, just fresh salmon fillet if you wanted to. Absolutely no problem at all. Little drizzle of oil on there. And let's pop our fish on there. Can you see this all right, Emily?
Yeah.
I'm hiding it in a parcel, aren't I? Sorry.
Just
if I do that, and then you can see it, can't you?
Where the chopping board is.
Yeah, I will now. Okay, so there it is. Now, to make it extra delicious, we're going to put some butter. And what will happen is the butter will drop into the fish to make it even more succulent and delicious. Okay? Then I've got some lemon. We'll squeeze that on the fish first, because fish just loves lemon. All fish. And then we've got our spice mix, okay? And you can put as little or as much on it as you like. All right, so we'll just give it a little stir. It's full of so many delicious, fragrant flavors. What I tend to do is put it onto my spoon and then just hit the spoon like that. And then it just dusts delicately onto the fish. And as I said before, this is not like curry blow your head off. This is spiced. All right, so it should just be full of flavor and interesting. So that's going to go into the oven for about 8 minutes. So my salmon is cooked. It smells amazing. Have a look at that. We've got all the natural, the butter's melted through. It's going to give us so much flavor. I'm actually going to serve this at room temperature because it will taste so much nicer. Cold yogurt, room temperature salmon, and lovely rye bread. But look, let's put it together because this will be absolutely perfect for your garden party or a good barbecue or picnic or whatever. So we've got our lovely rye bread. Fancy trying this, Emily?
Yeah, I'm intrigued.
Oh, well, there you go, you see. Right, yogurt first, but you've got to protect the bread. A little bit of butter. You can't not butter a sandwich, can you?
Not so much.
Look at that. There we go. There's not a lot on there, surely. And then I like good Greek thick yogurt, okay, because I think it works beautifully with salmon. Really, really nice. And then let's take our salmon. So if I move this over, grab this. So you don't need to cut it up. You just need to grab a spoon and just break it open, all right? And just take it from the skin and then just pop that on there. There we go. I'll take a bit from there as well. Oh, it smells good, this. Really good. Pop that onto there, and there you go. Finish with a squeeze of lemon juice, because I tell you that will make all the difference, I promise you. That little squeeze of lemon juice just takes it from one level to the next. And that's what we try to do on this program all the time, is share some incredible recipes with you and some techniques on how to make everything taste just that little bit better. But that is how you make my beautiful rye bread with an Indian spiced salmon and Greek yogurt. Perfect for the Jubilee weekend if that's what you're out celebrating, or a garden party, a barbecue. It'll be absolutely delicious. If you want the recipe, scan the QR code. It'll take you to masterclass.co. That's where all our recipes are. And if you want to enter this week's competition, make sure you comment, like, and share this video. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you on the next episode.